Good morning, 819S. Today, weather forecast changed. Yesterday it had called for rain today, but now it's clear. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday looks like rain. Today 15 to 24, now currently 19. It's a beautiful day. I'm going to ride my tact into work today. And you can see I get to start in the fresh air of nature. Really, really good place to get my ride started. So, let's head into work. The topic I'd like to talk about today is riding safety, especially when it comes to 50cc scooters. My wife and my wife's family, and I think it's the view of a lot of people in Japan, is that motorcycles and scooters are really, really dangerous. I definitely understand the point of view. In a car, you have airbags and you have protection and you have things to help you. But in a scooter or a motorcycle, or with a scooter or a motorcycle, you don't. Awesome little ape there. Yeah, if I get into an accident, which I hope I never do, there's no real protection for me except for whatever kind of gear I'm wearing, right? If I have pads and gloves and stuff like that. So the first thing I want to talk about comes to safety, and I think wearing gear is definitely the best thing to do. In Japan, helmets required. Depending on the circumstance, I feel like gloves are, but I don't think that the police would enforce you needing to wear gloves. Frankly, I don't know the rules on that. But for example, when you take your driving test at the driving test center, you must bring gloves. You have to bring your own helmet, you have to bring your own gloves. If you do have it, I think pants with protectors in the knees, maybe even the hip and the butt would be good. Jacket with elbow, shoulder, back protectors would be good. The problem is it gets really hot in summer, so I think having all that gear on really makes you feel warmer than you'd want to feel. In winter, it's usually not as bad, because I think in winter it's kind of chilly out, and the little extra padding can really help. And in the case of people like my wife, they don't like the padding just because they don't like the feel of the pads in the corners. They feel like, especially hard pads, they're kind of uncomfortable. So I think you just gotta find the right gear that is appropriate for you. Next up, I want to talk about speed. So this video is specifically riding 50cc bikes. When you ride 50cc bikes, there's a automatic speed limit regardless of the posted speed limit of 30 kilometers per hour. So there you go, that's 30 kilometers per hour. This road is 40, so everyone is kind of leaving me. This isn't advice. Do what you want to do. Obviously, my honest advice is follow the speed limit and follow the laws. But basically, from my experience riding in Japan, most people will ride 5 to 10 kilometers over the limit. So I think if you do 40 in a 40, police don't arrest me for this. It's not that big of a deal, generally. I think if you saw a patrol car or a Shido bike come by, I would roll the throttle off and get back down to 30. But I think that most people don't have a problem going 35 or 40, because 30 is a really kind of slow speed limit. I honestly wouldn't say go over 40. I think 45, 50 you're really pushing limits. I think I double checked it, and it's the 30 kilometers per hour over the limit is where you lose your license instantly. So I think if you were going 60 on a Genski, you would probably, or you could potentially lose your license. So it's not really worth it. There are two categories of Genski. What I'm talking about today is Genski Ishu, which is 50cc bikes. Genski Nishu has a pink license plate, and that is up to 125cc. Those bikes can ride up to 60 kilometers per hour but obviously depending on the posted speed limit. So if the posted speed limit is 40, you can go 40. If it's 60, you can go 60. And those bikes have another limitation. You can't use the expressways or highways because the speed is not sufficient. The top speed of the bike is not sufficient. The next thing is the riding location. So the position should be as close to the curb as possible. I believe the test book and driving instructors will tell you 1 meter. You should be at least 1 meter from the curb. And there is one thing that I haven't clarified yet. In some places there are blue lanes, and the blue lane usually says for bicycles only in Japanese. Nice. And the for bicycle only lane, my wife and I both believe is safe for scooters to ride in, but actually, after talking to a few friends, it's probably not. I'll have to clarify that and find out in a future video, or I'll have to clarify that and talk about it in a future video. But typically when you see this like a bicycle riding icon on the road with the arrow and chevrons, it means that this is where bicycles and 50cc scooters should be riding. Another issue that people often ask about is lane filtering and lane splitting. I think that the lane is on the side of the road here for the slow bikes to be able to catch back up and get back up to the front. So I think when the cars are stopped and you're lane filtering up to the front, it's okay. Lane splitting, in my definition, in my mind, means moving while other people are moving. It's also legal as long as you stay within the speed limits, so I think that's fine. There is one rule for lane filtering and lane splitting, and it applies to bicycles and motorcycles. If there's a yellow line, then you cannot do it. These yellow markings on the side of the road here are for parking. This white line means it would be okay for you to filter up to the front and move in front of the cars. The yellow lines on the road, on the curb here, are not about lane filtering or passing. They are about parking and stopping. Solid yellow and dashed yellow have different meanings as far as stopping a vehicle on the side of the road. When you get to a bigger road where the speed limit is higher, it gets a little bit scary. That's when sticking to the side of the road is important, and you always want to watch the turn signals of the car in front of you, because some people will put their turn signals on really last minute, and you want to make sure you're prepared to stop in time. It's also a reason why I say never ride side by side with a car. So there's always an empty space next to me. If a car tries to pull into that space, I will either accelerate or decelerate so that I'm not riding directly next to a car. I think it gives me an escape path if I need it, and it gives them an escape path if they need it, plus avoids any potential of them not seeing me if they want to turn. I should start following my own advice and wearing gloves. I think that it would definitely be better. Thomas the Tank. Buses will typically go the speed limit, so if you're behind a bus, patrol car. Buses typically go the speed limit, so if you're behind a bus, you'll end up doing what I'm doing now. You're being basically right at the speed limit. I think a lot of car drivers find frustration with that because I think earlier I was talking about speed limits. I said that most people drive 5 to 10 over, and I think that's absolutely true with cars. So if the speed limit's 40, the speed limit on a Genski is 30, you'll find cars are doing 50 and a lot of Genskis are doing 40. Again, it's a generalization, it's not gospel truth. And there are definitely young people who drive around on their Genskis at 50, which I don't agree with. So here we have a white line on this side and a yellow line on that side, so trying to overtake on that side would be wrong. Trying to overtake on this side is okay, but the yellow line, the white line here is not actually indicating passing or overtaking. The white line on this side is indicating the shoulder. It's to show you where the edge of the road is more. But my understanding is that white lines are legal for overtaking. If the side, I don't think I've ever seen it really, on the side of the road, if it were yellow, it would mean that overtaking would not be allowed in that zone. So some common things to look out for are vehicles pulling out in front of you. This truck didn't do anything bad, but sometimes people will think you're a slower moving vehicle and will attempt to pull out in front of you. You definitely want to look out for that. Always look out for people not using their turn signals or indicators to show that they want to turn. That seems to be an issue from time to time. And it's not only BMW drivers. Gotta watch out for people trying to overtake the Genski or the scooter and not really have enough space in front of them to overtake. I don't know if I have it on video anywhere, but it happens to me often enough. Watch out for pedestrians. The pedestrians always have the right of way, so like that bicycle there and the bicycle situation that happened to me yesterday. The police will definitely stop you and ticket you for things like that. Pay attention to the lane markings for direction. In this case, my lane goes straight, that lane turns left, so if you need to turn suddenly, it can be a little bit of a hassle if traffic is bad. And here we have a white line again, which means that I could potentially overtake this Yaris if I wanted to, but I think there's no need to in this situation. Another patrol. When you're moving lane position in the same lane, it's also a good idea to use your indicators. Indicators in my driving experience in the US were really for turning or changing lanes, but I never really used them to indicate a change in position in my own lane. And in Japan, that's a really, really common thing. If there's a car parked on the side of the road and you need to go around him, the correct thing to do is use your indicators to indicate that you're going to move. And here's where filtering really comes in handy. And there's a bicycle coming straight at me, so I've got to move over. Guy gave me the nod. Oh, yellow light. So that's another common thing. People ride through yellow lights and ride through red lights. Again, be cautious. I do it from time to time. If I didn't notice the light like just now, maybe I didn't see it because where I was looking it was blocked by the big equipment, but there's generally another signal on the side that you can use, and these both are indicated to go straight. So if there is something blocking the view of the main signal, you can look off to the right and you can find a secondary turn signal to indicate the current status of the light. Here we have a wide load, so it's going to be a little difficult to get around. And obviously if you know the vehicle is most likely manual, keep a little distance from it so that when he starts moving, he's got a gap where he can slide backwards a little bit without crashing into you. Before, when I was filtering, I passed a motorcycle that wasn't filtering, and you probably couldn't see it in the mirrors, but there was another motorcycle behind me that was filtering, an actual motorcycle, not a scooter. Some people decide not to, for safety or for other reasons. They just don't like it, or they don't think that it's safe. Some people do it really excessively, at really high speed. Your mileage may vary. And whether you want to do it or don't want to do it, that's a completely personal choice. There's no requirement to do it, obviously. And like I said, pay attention to the markings on the road as far as legality. You'll find that a lot of scooters have a brake lock. There's a lever here that will let you lock the brake. I use it all the time when I'm stopped in situations like this. The bike dealer explained it to my wife, and the explanation might not be accurate, but the understanding is it's a holdover from when bikes had side stands. 50cc bikes don't have gears, so you can't really put it in gear when you're parking to prevent the wheels from spinning. But if you wanted to park it on a side stand instead of a center stand, you'd need to lock the wheel so that the bike can't roll up or down a hill, and that's what the brake lock is for. But my wife and I both have a habit of using it when we're stopped, and we can take our hands off the handlebars for a few minutes if we need to. It seems to work really well, and the reason I like it is it keeps your brake light on. I could easily put my feet down on the ground and prevent the bike from rolling forward or backwards, but the brake light won't be on. At least if I have the brake lock engaged, the brake light will be on. So stop and engage the brake lock. Now I have free hands and the bike can't move. And to release it, on my bike, simply pull the lever and it will snap forward. On one of my older bikes that had it, you'd have to kind of coax it a little bit. I did spray it with some oil, it helped, but the spring was losing its springiness, so you always had to just kind of make sure that it released completely. So going around the bus, indicators on, going back into my lane, indicators on, back, indicators off. That thing's awesome. And there's an obstacle in front of me, indicators on, go around the obstacle, indicator back to my lane, and stop. There are a lot of people who don't do it, and I have to admit I'm one of the people who doesn't do it. I am not particularly proud of that, but it's, I think from riding my big bikes and from riding in America, it's a habit. What can you say? When approaching an intersection, one thing I usually do is pay attention to the crosswalk also. The crosswalk is green, now it's flashing, so that means it's going to change. It will potentially change soon, so if I were still further back, I probably would start slowing down. Make sure that I can stop safely at the red light. It's typically a good indication that the light is going to change, but the timing of some lights is drastically different from others. And there are some intersections that are set up where people can cross, and then people in all directions are stopped, and cars go, and then all cars are stopped, and then people can cross. Typically, intersections that had more accidents or have a larger volume of people will do something like that for the safety of pedestrians and for, did I say passengers before? For the safety of pedestrians and for people in vehicles. But yeah, light change, now green. There's one more big thing that I don't know if I'm going to be able to find on this ride, and that is the two-step turn. If you want to make a right-hand turn, you have to pay attention to the number of lanes that the road you're on has. So for instance, if I wanted to make a right turn here, it's safe because there's 2 lanes. We have a turning lane and a straight lane. So from here, I could turn right if I needed to. If that striped lane was actually a 3rd lane and I wanted to turn right, I can't. I would need to do what's called a 2-step turn, and I need to turn around there and hook, and then I can go straight across. It's a little bit tricky if you're riding in a place that you're not really familiar with. I've run into the situation where I thought the road was 2 lanes all the way, and when I finally reached the intersection, there was a 3rd lane. And if I'm on my big bike, I don't think about it whatsoever because I can always make a turn. But when I'm on a Genski, I have to consider whether it's legal or illegal to make the turn there. I do think that the police will stop you for that if they notice it. So it is something that you do want to pay attention to. So yeah, 2 lanes here, that right turn is safe. I think the road I'm on now doesn't really show it. And you have the light, the countdown light, to show when the pedestrian cross will change. That can help you understand when the light's going to turn green. Not every traffic signal, not every intersection has that. But there, turns green. This is the big police station right here. Not this gray building, but the brown-gray one behind it. There's the police station. So there's a lot of police patrolling and riding around here, bicycles and motorcycles. And cars. Two more things. When you're riding, and you see an ambulance or fire truck or other vehicle with a siren and lights, you're supposed to move over. You're supposed to not block any intersections and things like that. For me, it's the same as riding in America. If I see somebody coming down the road, an ambulance coming down the road, in front or behind me, I should move over and stop on the side of the road, and don't stop at an intersection, don't stop in front of driveways, because you're potentially blocking access to that location. Wow, deja vu. Yeah, there are a lot of drivers who don't do that, drivers in cars and motorcycles. And some people, when you stop, they're going to keep going around you because they wait till the absolute last minute to give the emergency vehicle right away. That's going to be your call. Just kind of read the air and figure out what the best timing is. And finally, if you're ever riding and there's an earthquake, maybe in a lot of cases you won't notice it, especially smaller ones, because the shock absorbers and your suspension will absorb a lot of the shaking. But there are two types of earthquakes. Well, there may be more than that, but there's earthquakes that shake up and down, and there are earthquakes that shake side to side. So the up and down ones are definitely going to be absorbed by your shock absorbers. The side to side ones may end up making the bike feel wobbly and weird. Fortunately, I haven't ridden in a big earthquake, and I hopefully never have the experience of doing it. But if you do know, because sometimes your phone will give you an indicator, there'll be an alarm that rings on your phone. Warning, earthquake in 20 seconds. Warning, earthquake in 10 seconds. If you do hear the indicator, move over to the side of the road and stop to the best of your ability. And make sure that you're in a place where nothing can fall on you, where you're in a kind of safe situation. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. Oh yeah, one more thing did just come to mind, and that is licensing. So if you have a Japanese car driver's license, you can drive a 50cc scooter. You don't need any additional permits or anything like that. My understanding is that everyone with a car driver's license also has the ability to ride a 50cc scooter. And my first impression of that, or my first thought of that was, okay, then with an international driver's license, you also have the ability to ride a scooter, and that is incorrect. I'm not exactly sure why, but the car driver's licenses in Japan include the ability to ride 50cc scooters. And international driver's licenses for cars do not include the ability to ride scooters. So if you're coming to Japan and you want to ride a 50cc bike, you're going to need a motorcycle license back home. And if you have a motorcycle license for a bigger bike, in the US, or at least in my hometown in New York State, motorcycle license is just one category, so just motorcycle, which means I can ride a Ogata bike here in Japan. With that, I would probably recommend you getting a 125, 250, 400, something like that if you're going to rent a bike. If you're really just doing local riding and you want to save money and be as efficient and as small and easygoing as possible, maybe a 50 is good for you, but I still recommend a 125 because you don't have to worry about the two-step turns, and you can legally get up to 60. Which means when you're going on some back roads, sometimes, I shouldn't say back roads, when you're going on some big roads, sometimes the speed limit is 60, and I think local drivers are probably going to end up going 65 or 70 in some cases, and if you're going 30, it can be kind of a terrifying situation, especially Wangan Doro. Wangan is crazy. My wife and I rode it once to get to Chiba, and it's not something we want to do again, not on a 50cc bike at least. But yeah, I made it to work. Yeah, when you're in Japan and riding, just be safe, be slow, be respectful, be courteous to other drivers, and do what makes common sense. If you're not sure of the rules, do whatever is the safest if you're not sure of the rules. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Ride safe.